The most dangerous mafia boss in Korea called her trash. 2 years later, he saw her raising his triplets. Won-jun stood shocked outside the small cafe, his designer shoes planted on cracked pavement he'd never noticed before. Through the window, he watched her, Magnolia, laughing while 3 identical toddlers smeared chocolate on their faces. The coffee cup in his hand suddenly felt too heavy. 2 years. 2 years since he'd called her trash and walked away. "Boss, we should go," his assistant Sung-min murmured beside him, probably worried about the schedule. Probably worried about everything falling apart if anyone saw Korea's most powerful hotel magnate staring through a cafe window like some lost fool. But Won-jun couldn't move. One of the boys, maybe 2 years old now, maybe a little older, had her smile. The exact same smile she'd given him that first night they met at the art gallery, back when he didn't know kindness could be a weapon that destroyed you from the inside out. Those children. His voice came out strangled. Sung-min cleared his throat. "Sir, your 2 o'clock meeting. Cancel everything." Won-jun pushed through the cafe door before he could stop himself, before logic could win. The bell chimed overhead, too cheerful for the way his stomach twisted into knots. Magnolia's head snapped up. The laughter died on her face, replaced by something cold and distant that made him want to rewind time, go back, choose differently. Her hand moved protectively to shield the boys. "Well," she said, her Yoruba accent thicker than he remembered, probably from being away from him, from his world. "Didn't expect to see you in this part of town." The 3 toddlers stared at him with matching dark eyes. His eyes. He knew it the same way he knew his own heartbeat, the same way he'd known 2 years ago that loving her would ruin everything his family built. "Magnolia, Words failed him. Hwang Won-jun, who negotiated billion-won deals over breakfast, couldn't string together a sentence. She stood up, started gathering tiny jackets and sippy cups with practiced efficiency. "Boys, time to go. Say goodbye to the nice stranger." "Stranger?" The word felt like a blade. "We need to talk. We talked 2 years ago." She hoisted one boy onto her hip while the other 2 grabbed her legs. "You were very clear. I was trash from the streets. Your mother would never accept me. Your empire would crumble. Remember?" He remembered. God. He remembered every word he'd shouted that night, every cruel thing he'd said to push her away, because being with her meant choosing between love and everything else. He'd thought everything else mattered more. Are they mine? Stupid question. He could see himself in their faces, in the way one boy tilted his head exactly, like Won-jun did when thinking. Magnolia laughed, but it held no warmth. "Does it matter? You made your choice. I made mine." She moved toward the door, her small army of children stumbling along. Won-jun stepped sideways, blocking her path. Not threatening, just desperate. "Please. 5 minutes." "Why?" She shifted the boy on her hip higher. "So you can call me trash again? Tell me how I'm not good enough for the great Hwang family? I've moved on, Won-jun. You should too." "I was wrong." The words burned coming out. "About everything. I was. Mama, who dis?" One of the boys tugged her sleeve, looking up at Won-jun with curious eyes. Magnolia's expression softened when she looked at her son, transformed into something so beautiful it hurt. "Nobody, baby. Just someone Mama used to know." Nobody. He'd reduced himself to nobody. The cafe owner, an elderly woman with kind eyes, emerged from the back. "Magnolia, dear, is this man bothering you? I can call someone." "It's fine, Mrs. Chen." Magnolia smiled at the woman, genuine affection there. "We're leaving anyway." "Wait." Won-jun pulled out his wallet, then stopped. "Money." He always thought money solved things. "I want to help. With the children. With anything you need." "We don't need your help." She finally met his eyes properly, and the hatred there staggered him backwards. "We don't need anything from you. Come on, boys." She brushed past him, and he caught the scent of cocoa butter and baby powder, so different from the jasmine perfume she used to wear. His fault. All of it. Sung-min appeared at his elbow once they left. "Boss, should I look into her situation?" Find out where she's living.
No.
June watched through the window as Magnolia buckled 3 toddlers into a beat-up sedan that probably should have been junked years ago.
Yes.
I don't know. I need to think. But thinking was impossible. Those were his sons. His children. Walking away from Magnolia had been the worst decision of his life, and now he had proof. 3 perfect pieces of proof that his cowardice had cost him everything that actually mattered. His phone buzzed. His mother. Probably calling about the merger with the Choi family, about his expected engagement to Choi Mi-sun, about maintaining the family reputation. He ignored it. Find out where she's living, he told Sung-min quietly. But don't approach her. Don't let her know. Just make sure they're safe. That they have what they need. Of course, sir. Sung-min hesitated. If I may ask, are those children yours? June stared at the empty spot where her car had been.
Yeah.
They're mine. And I threw them all away because I was too much of a coward to stand up to my mother. The admission tasted like ash. Magnolia's hands shook as she drove, gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turned pale. She couldn't cry. Not in front of Olive, Charlie, and Sam. They didn't understand yet why Mama sometimes got sad, why she worked 3 jobs to keep them fed, why they lived in a tiny apartment instead of the nice places other kids had. Mama sad? Olive asked from his car seat, too perceptive for 2 years old. No, baby. She forced brightness into her voice. Mama's just tired. Who wants chicken nuggets for dinner? The chorus of excited squeals helped, but her mind kept drifting back. June had looked different. Older maybe, or just more tired. Lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. Part of her, the stupid part that never learned, wanted to believe the regret on his face was real. But she'd believed him before. Believed him when he said he loved her, when he whispered promises in the dark, when he introduced her to his friends as someone special. She'd believed right up until his mother showed up at her apartment with a check and a sneer. My son will never marry trash like you, the woman had said. Take this money and disappear. Magnolia had ripped up the check, told her to leave. Then June had come that night, and instead of defending her, instead of choosing her, he'd said those words. You're right. She is trash. I don't know what I was thinking. She'd been pregnant then. Didn't know it yet. Found out 2 weeks after he walked out of her life forever. Or she thought it was forever. Her phone rang. Her sister Evangeline. Probably checking if she'd picked up the boys from daycare on time. Hey, sis, Magnolia answered, switching to speaker. We're good. Heading home now. You sound weird. What happened?
Nothing.
Just tired. Liar. I can hear it in your voice. Did someone? Saw him. The words escaped before she could stop them. June.
At the cafe.
He saw the boys. Silence. Then Evangeline's sharp intake of breath. And nothing. We left. End of story. That's not the end, Ada. Those are his children. He's going to what? Suddenly care? Suddenly become a father? Magnolia pulled into their apartment complex, the building's old and paint-chipped. He made his choice. He chose his empire over us. Maybe he regrets it. Regret doesn't feed our babies. Regret doesn't pay rent. She unbuckled Olive first, then the others. I have to go. Talk tomorrow. Getting 3 toddlers up 2 flights of stairs always felt like running a marathon. By the time she got them inside, fed them, bathed them, and tucked them into the 1 bedroom they all shared, exhaustion had seeped into her bones. She collapsed on the couch, a second-hand thing from a thrift store, and finally let herself feel everything. The shock of seeing him. The anger. The traitorous flutter in her chest when their eyes met. She'd loved him so completely, it nearly destroyed her. Loved him enough to overlook their differences, his mother's disapproval, the way his friends sometimes looked at her like she didn't belong. A notification from an unknown number tinged on her phone, and she almost didn't answer. However, something made her pick up. Hello. Magnolia. His voice. Deep and careful. Please don't hang up. She should have. Every smart part of her brain screamed to end the call, block the number, forget he existed. But her finger wouldn't move to disconnect. How did you get my number? That doesn't matter. He paused, and she heard something like fear in his voice. I need to see you. Really see you. Talk properly. We have nothing to talk about. I have 3 sons I didn't know existed. His voice cracked slightly. We have everything to talk about. You didn't want to know. She stood up, pacing her small living room. You walked away. You called me. I know what I called you. He sounded wrecked. I know what I said. I was wrong. I've been wrong for 2 years, and I'm asking for a chance to make it right. Make it right. Anger bubbled up, hot and fierce. You think you can just show up and fix everything? Where were you when I was pregnant and scared? Where were you when I gave birth alone? Where were you for every sleepless night, every fever, every time they asked why they don't have a daddy? Silence stretched between them. She could hear him breathing, could almost feel him grappling with words that wouldn't come. I didn't know, he finally said. You didn't tell me. You didn't give me a chance to tell you anything. She sank back onto the couch. You threw me away like I meant nothing. Like what we had was nothing. It wasn't nothing. His voice dropped lower. It was everything. That's why I ran. I was terrified of choosing wrong, of letting down my family, and I made the worst choice possible. I let you go. Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted. Your perfect life without trash like me in it. My life isn't perfect. It's empty. He hesitated.
Please.
1 meeting. Let me see them properly. Let me.
No.
She cut him off. You don't get to decide this anymore. Those boys are mine. I raised them. I sacrificed everything for them. You're just someone who shares their DNA. Magnolia. Good night, 1 June. She ended the call, then immediately burst into tears she'd been holding back since the cafe. This wasn't fair. She'd moved on. She'd built a life, small and struggling maybe, but hers. And now he crashed back in, stirring up feelings she'd buried deep. A soft knock on her door made her jump. She wiped her face, checked the peephole. Her neighbor Tandy stood there holding a casserole dish. Saw you come in looking stressed, Tandy said when Magnolia opened the door. Made extra jollof rice. Figured you could use it. The kindness broke something inside her, and fresh tears spilled over. Tandy immediately pulled her into a hug. Careful with the casserole. Boy trouble? Tandy asked. Man trouble. Terrible man trouble. They sat together while Magnolia spilled everything. The relationship, the breakup, seeing him today. Tandy listened without judgment, occasionally making supportive noises. So, what are you going to do? Tandy asked when she finished. Nothing. Keep living my life. Protect my boys. And if he doesn't give up? Magnolia hadn't thought about that. What if 1 June kept pushing? He had resources she couldn't imagine, connections everywhere. If he wanted access to his sons, could she really stop him? Then I'll deal with it, she said, more confidently than she felt. But sleep didn't come easy that night. She kept thinking about the look on his face at the cafe, the way his voice broke on the phone. Part of her, the foolish part, wondered if people could actually change. 1 June sat in his penthouse office, Seoul's skyline glittering beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. Sungmin had delivered the report an hour ago. Magnolia lived in a rundown complex in Itaewon, worked as a translator during the day, and did freelance graphic design at night. The boys went to a small daycare that cost more than she could afford. Her sister helped when possible, but money was always tight. She was drowning, and it was his fault. The engagement party is scheduled for next week. His mother's voice cut through his thoughts. She'd let herself into his office without knocking, as usual. The Choi family expects your full commitment. I'm not marrying Misun. He said it without looking at her. Excuse me? You heard me. He finally turned. I'm not marrying her. I'm not marrying anyone you choose. His mother's perfectly made-up face tightened. We've discussed this. The merger requires. Find another way. He stood, suddenly tired of this office, this life, these expectations. I'm done pretending I care about any of it. Is this about that African girl? His mother's voice dripped disdain. I heard you were spotted at some low-class cafe today. Please tell me you're not foolish enough to. Her name is Magnolia. Each word came out sharp as glass. And she's the mother of your 3 grandsons. His mother went pale. What? I have sons. 3 of them. And before you say anything, before you offer money or threaten lawyers, understand this. I already destroyed the best thing in my life, because I listened to you. I won't make that mistake twice. Grandsons. She sank into a chair, actually looking shaken.
When? How?
2 years ago. When I walked away like you demanded. He moved to the window. Couldn't look at her. She was pregnant. I didn't know, but that doesn't matter. I should have fought for her. I should have chosen her. 1 June. Think about what you're saying. The scandal. I don't care about scandal. He turned back. I care about my sons. I care about the woman I loved enough to give up, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life earning her forgiveness. His mother stood slowly. The family won't accept this. Then the family can disown me. He'd never felt more certain. I'll give it all up. The company, the money, everything. I don't need any of it if I can have them. You're being ridiculous. You can't just. Watch me. He grabbed his coat. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more important things to do than plan a wedding that's never going to happen. He left her standing there, probably in shock.
Good.
Let her be shocked. Let them all be shocked. Sungmin waited by the elevator. Sir, where are we going? To fix the biggest mistake I ever made. 1 June pressed the button for the parking garage. And I don't care how long it takes. 3 days passed before 1 June worked up the courage to approach again. He found Magnolia at a small park, watching the triplets play on worn swings and a rusty slide. She saw him coming and immediately tensed. Please don't run, he said, stopping several feet away. I just want to talk. I told you. I broke off my engagement. The words rushed out. Well, I refused to go through with it. Told my mother everything. About you, about our sons, about how I gave up the only real thing in my life for an empire I never wanted. She stared at him. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know I'm serious. He took a small step closer. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know what I did was unforgivable. But those boys deserve a father, and I want to be that. I want to know them. Want doesn't matter. But her voice had lost some of its edge. You can't just show up after 2 years and expect. I don't expect anything. He watched the boys, his heart aching. I'm just asking for a chance. Let me prove I've changed. Let me be there for them, even if you never forgive me. One of the triplets, Sam, he'd learned from Sungmin's report, ran over to Magnolia. Mama, thirsty. She pulled a juice box from her bag, handed it to him. The casual intimacy of it, the practiced way she knew what they needed, hurt more than anything. That's Sam, she said quietly. The one who just ran over. He's the youngest by 3 minutes. Always thirsty. Always hungry.
It was an olive branch. Small, but there.
And the others? 1 June asked carefully. Olive is on the swings. He's fearless. Would climb anything if I let him. Charlie is on the slide. He's quieter. Likes to observe before jumping in. They're beautiful. His voice caught. Just like their mother. Magnolia looked away. Don't do that. Don't try to charm me. I'm not trying to charm you. I'm telling the truth. He sat on the bench nearby, giving her space. What do I need to do? To earn time with them? She was quiet for a long moment, watching the boys play. I don't know. This is all happening too fast. 3 days ago, you didn't know they existed. Now you want to be their father? I've always been their father. I just didn't know it. He leaned forward. And yeah, maybe this is fast, but I've already wasted 2 years. I don't want to waste any more time. It's not about what you want anymore. She finally looked at him. It's about what's best for them. And I don't know if that's you. The word stung but fair. Let me prove it then. Supervised visits. Here at the park, anywhere you choose. You can be there the whole time. I just want to know my sons. She studied him for so long, he thought she'd refuse. Then slowly she nodded. 1 hour.
This Saturday.
Here. She held up a finger. But the second I think you're going to hurt them or confuse them or disappear again, we're done. Understand. I understand. Relief flooded through him. Thank you. I promise I won't let you down. You already let me down once. She stood, called the boys over. Don't make it twice. She gathered them up and left without another word. But she'd said yes. It was a start. Saturday came with perfect weather and Wonjun's absolute terror. He'd bought gifts, probably too many gifts, then worried that was wrong, that he was trying to buy their affection. He changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a simple shirt, wanting to look approachable, not like the businessman who'd abandoned their mother. Magnolia was already at the park when he arrived, the boys playing nearby. She'd worn her hair in braids wrapped into a crown, and seeing her in casual clothes, not the hurried, stressed version from the cafe, reminded him of why he'd fallen in love in the first place. You came, she said, like she'd half expected him to bail. I'll always come. He set down the bag of toys he'd brought. I wasn't sure what they liked, so I might have gone overboard. She glanced at the bag, raised an eyebrow.
A bit, yeah.
Can I? He gestured toward the boys. Olive, Charlie, Sam. Magnolia called them over. This is Wonjun. He's going to play with you today. 3 pairs of curious eyes examined him. Olive spoke first. You the man from cafe. Smart kid. Yeah, that was me. Is it okay if I hang out with you guys today? Charlie, the quiet observer, tilted his head. You know Mama? I knew Mama before you were born. Wonjun said carefully. We were friends. Why you go away? Sam asked, blunt as only toddlers could be.
The question hit him in the chest.
Magnolia looked uncomfortable, probably hadn't expected them to be so direct. I made a mistake, Wonjun told him honestly. A really big mistake. But I'm trying to fix it now. Okay. Sam accepted this with the easy forgiveness of childhood. You play trucks? I love trucks. He had no idea if he loved trucks, but he'd learn. The next hour passed faster than any business meeting ever had. Olive showed him how to build the best sandcastle, though most of the sand ended up in Wonjun's hair. Charlie shared his action figures, carefully explaining each character's backstory. Sam wanted to be pushed on the swings, higher and higher until Magnolia called out that was high enough. And through it all, Wonjun felt something he hadn't felt in 2 years complete. Like pieces of himself he didn't know were missing had suddenly clicked back into place. Time's up, Magnolia announced too soon. Already? Olive protested. But we not done with the castle. We can finish next time, Wonjun said, then looked at Magnolia hopefully. If there's a next time? She hesitated, then nodded. Maybe. We'll see. The boys groaned about leaving but hugged Wonjun goodbye without prompting, which made his eyes burn with unexpected emotion. After they left, he sat on the bench alone, trying to process everything. Those were his sons, his children. And he'd missed 2 years of their lives because he'd been a coward. His phone rang. His mother. He considered ignoring it, but eventually answered. You need to come home, she said without preamble. We need to discuss this situation. There's nothing to discuss. Those are my sons, and I'm going to be in their lives. Don't be naive. Her voice turned cold. Do you think that woman won't use them against you? Ask for money, threaten scandal. Magnolia isn't like that. Everyone is like that when money's involved. His mother sighed. If you insist on this foolishness, at least do it properly. Establish paternity legally. Set up support payments. Get custody arrangements in writing. I'm not taking her to court. I'm not suggesting you take custody. I'm suggesting you protect yourself and provide for your children properly. She paused. Whatever else you think of me, Wonjun, I'm not suggesting you abandon them. I'm suggesting you be smart about this. It was the most reasonable she'd been about the entire situation. I'll think about it. Think quickly. The Choi family is threatening to pull out of several joint ventures. Your stubbornness is costing the company millions. Then let it cost millions. He ended the call, tired of business, tired of obligations that didn't matter. What mattered was the way Olive had grabbed his hand to show him the swings. The way Charlie had quietly explained his toys. The way Sam had laughed when Wonjun made funny faces. That was real. Everything else was just noise. Magnolia watched Wonjun from her bedroom window. He'd parked across the street, just sitting in his car. Not approaching, not bothering them, just there. He'd been doing this for 3 days now, showing up around dinner time and sitting until the lights went out. He's persistent, Evangeline said from behind her.
You have to give him that.
Persistence doesn't erase the past. No, but maybe it means something. Her sister moved to stand beside her. The boys won't stop talking about him. Olive asked me yesterday if Wonjun was their daddy. Magnolia's stomach twisted. What did you tell him? That he should ask you. Evangeline skewed Charlie'd her shoulder. They're going to figure it out soon, Ada. They're smart. And when they do, what are you going to say? She didn't have an answer. The truth felt too complicated. Yes, he's your father, but he threw us away. Yes, he's here now, but who knows for how long. Her phone buzzed. A text from Wonjun. I know you can see me. I'm not trying to be creepy. Just wanted to be close to them, even like this. I'll leave if you want. Against her better judgment, she texted back. Why are you really here? His response came quickly, because I spent 2 years trying to forget you and them without knowing they existed. Now that I know, I can't be anywhere else. Her heart did something stupid and painful in her chest. She texted, This is weird. Go home. One more message from him. Okay, but I'll be back tomorrow. Same time. I'm not giving up. She watched his car pull away, feeling something she couldn't quite name. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something softer than the anger she'd been carrying. What are you going to do? Evangeline asked. I don't know. Magnolia turned away from the window. He's trying, I can see that. But trying doesn't mean I should trust him again. Maybe trust isn't the goal right now. Maybe just letting him try is enough. The next Saturday, Wonjun showed up at the park with less toys and more confidence. The boys ran to him immediately, Olive launching himself at Wonjun's legs. We builded the biggest castle ever, Olive announced. You gotta see. Watching them together did something to Magnolia's carefully constructed walls. Wonjun was good with them. Patient. Engaged. Not like some distant father checking his phone, but actually present. Can we talk? Wonjun asked during a moment when the boys were occupied. Really talk. She nodded, moving to a bench nearby where she could still see the children. I want to set up support, he said. Not because my mother suggested it, though she did, but because you shouldn't be struggling. The boys shouldn't be going without. We're fine. Pride made her voice sharp. Magnolia, I saw your apartment building. I know you work 3 jobs. I know daycare costs are killing you. He held up a hand when she bristled. I'm not judging. I'm impressed you've managed it all. But you don't have to manage alone anymore. I don't want your money. It's not my money. It's their money. They're my sons, and I should have been supporting them from the beginning. He pulled out an envelope. This is a check. Enough to cover rent and daycare for the next year. Please take it. She stared at the envelope like it might bite her. And, what do you want in return? Nothing. He set it on the bench between them. Okay, that's a lie. I want more time with them. I want to be their father. But the money isn't conditional. Even if you tell me to disappear again, they still deserve support. Something in his voice made her believe him. She picked up the envelope slowly. This is a lot of money. It's what I should have been giving all along. He watched the boys play. I missed their first words. First steps. Every milestone that mattered. I can't get that back, but I can make sure they have everything they need going forward. Money isn't everything. I know. That's why I'm here. He turned to look at her. I don't just want to send checks, Magnolia. I want to be there. For scraped knees and bedtime stories and everything in between. That's a big commitment. Your business can manage without me being there every second. He smiled slightly. Turns out most of what I thought was essential was actually just me being controlling. I've delegated, hired better people, made space for what actually matters. And what matters?
She had to ask. This.
He gestured at the boys, at her, at the moment.
Them. You.
Getting a second chance I definitely don't deserve. Before she could respond, Charlie ran over. Mama, I'm hungry. I know, baby. We'll eat soon. There's a good restaurant near here, Wonjun said carefully. All of us could go. If you want. My treat. Magnolia hesitated. Going to dinner felt too much like a family, too much like forgiveness. But the boys were hungry and she was tired, and maybe, just maybe, she could allow this one small thing. Okay, she said. But this doesn't mean. I know. He stood, offering his hand to help her up. She didn't take it, but he didn't look offended. It's just dinner. Except it wasn't just dinner. It was Olive spilling juice and Wonjun cleaning it up with a laugh. It was Charlie showing Wonjun his favorite food. It was Sam falling asleep against Wonjun's shoulder, completely trusting. It was everything Magnolia had imagined in her weakest moments, and it terrified her more than anger ever could. 2 months flew past like a bird in the sky. Wonjun showed up every Saturday without fail, sometimes during the week too. He learned their routines, their favorite foods, which songs helped them sleep. He attended Olive's school presentation, sat through Charlie's doctor appointment, held Sam through a nightmare. And slowly, despite every wall Magnolia had built, she felt them crumbling. He's different, she admitted to Evangeline one evening. From before, I mean. More grounded somehow. Maybe losing you changed him. Evangeline looked up from helping Olive with a puzzle. Or maybe he's finally showing you who he really is. I don't know which scares me more. The truth was, parts of the old Wonjun were still there. The thoughtfulness, the dry humor, the way he listened like every word mattered. But something fundamental had shifted. He didn't check his phone constantly. He didn't flinch when the boys got messy. He'd shown up to their apartment once in a designer suit because of a meeting, and by the end of the visit, it had paint stains and sticky fingerprints. He hadn't seemed to care at all. Mama, Olive said during dinner one night, completely out of nowhere. Is Wonjun our daddy? Magnolia nearly choked on her rice. Evangeline's eyes went wide. Why do you ask that, baby? Because Samir at daycare says daddies are boys who love mamas and babies. Olive tilted his head. Wonjun loves us. I can tell. How did you explain complicated adult mistakes to a 2-year-old? How did you say yes, he's your father, but he hurt me so badly I'm scared to trust him again? Wonjun cares about you very much, she said carefully. He's working on being a good person to our family. So, he is our daddy? Charlie chimed in, always the one to push for clear answers. Yeah, Magnolia said quietly. He is. Cool, Sam said, completely unbothered. Can I have more chicken? And just like that, it was settled in their minds. But Magnolia's mind spun with implications. She needed to tell Wonjun they knew. She needed to something. Figure out what came next. She texted him that night. The boys know you're their father. They asked. I confirmed. Thought you should know. His response came within seconds. Can I come over? It's late. They're asleep. Please. I need to talk to you. Against her better judgment, she agreed. 20 minutes later, he stood at her door, looking nervous in a way she'd never seen before. They know, he said, stepping inside. They know I'm their father.
Yeah.
Olive asked at dinner. She closed the door. They took it pretty well, actually. And you? He searched her face. How are you with it? Terrified, if I'm honest. She moved to the kitchen, needing something to do with her hands. Once they know, it's real. It's not just visits anymore. You're their father, and that's forever. I want forever. He followed her. With them, and with you, if you'll let me. Her hands stilled on the kettle. Wonjun. I'm in love with you. The words rushed out. I never stopped. These months, watching you with them, seeing the incredible mother you are, the strength you have. I fell in love all over again. Deeper this time. You can't just say that. She turned to face him. You don't get to break me and then declare love like it fixes everything. I know it doesn't fix anything. He stayed where he was, not approaching. I know I hurt you worse than anyone should hurt someone they love. I was selfish and scared, and I let my mother's prejudice matter more than my heart.
But I've changed, Ada. I'm not asking you to believe me.
I'm asking you to let me prove it. You've been proving it. The admission hurt. These 2 months, you've been everything I needed you to be before. But that doesn't mean I'm ready to trust you with my heart again. I understand. He looked down. I'll wait. However long it takes. I'm not going anywhere. What about your mother? Your company? The life you chose over me? My mother is learning to accept this. Slowly. He managed a small smile. She actually asked to meet them. The boys. Said she wants to know her grandsons. Magnolia's jaw dropped. The woman who called me trash wants to meet my children? Our children. And yeah, I was shocked too. He shrugged. I told her she had to apologize to you first. Really apologize. She's still working up to it. I don't need her apology. But maybe she did, just a little. You deserve it anyway. He took one step closer. You deserve everything I didn't give you before. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you get it. The doorbell rang, making them both jump. Magnolia checked the peephole, and her blood went cold. Choi Mi-sun stood in the hallway, dressed impeccably and looking furious. Did you know she was coming? Magnolia asked. Won-jun looked confused. Mi-sun?
No.
I haven't spoken to her since I called off the engagement. Magnolia opened the door slowly. Can I help you? You. Mi-sun looked her up and down with barely concealed disgust. You're the reason Won-jun humiliated my family. Mi-sun, leave. Won-jun moved to stand beside Magnolia. This is inappropriate. Inappropriate is breaking our engagement for some. She gestured at Magnolia dismissively. Careful. Won-jun's voice went cold. Very careful what you say next. She trapped you with those children. Mi-sun's voice rose. Everyone knows it. You're throwing away everything for someone who's probably lying about them even being yours. Get out. Magnolia's voice was quiet but firm. Get out of my home before I call security. Your home. Mi-sun laughed harshly. This dump? Won-jun. Look at where you're wasting your time. She's using you. The only person I see being used is you. Magnolia stepped forward. You thought marrying him would give you status and power. But he didn't love you. He never loved you. And that must burn. Mi-sun's face twisted. You don't know anything about. I know he chose his children over a business merger. I know he's here every week, not with you. And I know you came here to make yourself feel better about losing something you never really had. Those children aren't even. Say one more word about my sons. Won-jun interrupted, his voice dangerous. And I will make sure every business connection you have disappears. Every invitation, every opportunity. I'll destroy the Choi family's reputation piece by piece until there's nothing left. Mi-sun went pale. Without another word, she turned and stalked away. Magnolia closed the door, her hands shaking slightly. That was. I'm sorry. Won-jun looked stricken. I never thought she'd come here. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. You threatened her. Magnolia stared at him. You were ready to destroy her family for talking about our sons. Of course I was. He met her eyes. Nobody disrespects my children. Nobody. Something shifted in that moment. Seeing him defend their boys with such ferocity, choosing them over business consequences yet again, cracked something deep inside her. I'm still scared, she whispered. I know. He reached out slowly, giving her time to move away. When she didn't, he gently took her hand. But I'm here. And I'm not leaving. Not for my mother. Not for me, son. Not for anyone. A small voice called from the bedroom. Mama? They both moved toward the sound. Olive stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. I heard yelling. Everything's okay, baby. Magnolia scooped him up. Just someone at the wrong door. Won-jun here. Olive perked up. I'm here, buddy. Wonjun ruffled his hair. You should be sleeping though. Will you stay? Olive asked. Till I sleep again? Wonjun looked at Magnolia. She should say no. She should maintain boundaries. But instead, she nodded. They tucked Olive back into bed, and at his request, Wonjun sat beside him, telling a made-up story about brave trucks and magical construction sites. Magnolia watched from the doorway as her son's eyes slowly closed, as Wonjun's voice got softer, as something that looked like a family took shape in her tiny bedroom. When Olive was fully asleep, Wonjun carefully stood and joined her in the doorway. Thank you, he whispered, for letting me stay. Thank you for defending them. For defending us. They stood close in the dim hallway, and for the first time in 2 years, Magnolia didn't feel the urge to run away from what was happening between them. I should go, he said, but didn't move. Yeah, she agreed, but didn't step back. Magnolia, he breathed her name like a prayer. Don't. She closed her eyes. Don't make promises you can't keep. Don't tell me things will be different if they won't. Look at me. He waited until she opened her eyes. I'm not the same person who walked away. And I will never hurt you like that again. That's not a promise. It's a fact. People don't change that much. People do when they lose everything that matters. His hand came up to her face, but stopped just short of touching. Let me prove it, however long it takes. A crash from the living room made them both jump. They rushed out to find Charlie standing by a fallen lamp, looking guilty. I waked up, he said. Wanted water. Bumped into thing. The moment broke, but something had shifted. As Wonjun helped clean up while Magnolia got Charlie his water, she realized this was what she'd wanted all along. Not grand gestures or expensive gifts, but someone showing up for the mundane, messy reality of their lives. Maybe, just maybe, he really had changed. The meeting with Wonjun's mother was set for a Tuesday afternoon at a neutral location, a quiet tea house that Magnolia chose specifically because it was public enough to be safe, but private enough for difficult conversations. You don't have to do this, Wonjun said for the 3rd time as they approached. The boys were with Evangeline, giving the adult space for whatever happened next. Yes, I do. Magnolia straightened her shoulders. If she's going to be in their lives, we need to clear the air. Mrs. Huang sat at a corner table, looking smaller somehow than Magnolia remembered. 2 years ago, she'd seemed like a force of nature, all sharp edges and cold dismissal. Today, she just looked like an older woman trying to hold on to control she no longer had. Magnolia, Mrs. Huang said as they approached. Not warm, but not hostile either. Mrs. Huang. Magnolia sat down across from her. Wonjun sat beside Magnolia, a clear statement of where his loyalties lay. Awkward silence stretched between them. Finally, Mrs. Huang spoke. I owe you an apology. The words seemed to physically pain her. What I said 2 years ago, what I did, it was wrong. It was cruel. Magnolia didn't soften it. You called me trash. You told your son I was beneath him. You tried to pay me to disappear. I was trying to protect him. Mrs. Huang's hands trembled slightly around her teacup. From scandal, from difficulty, from a life I thought would make him unhappy. You didn't protect him. You made him miserable. Wonjun's voice was hard. And you cost him 2 years with his children. I know. Mrs. Huang finally looked at Magnolia properly. I've seen pictures of my grandsons. Wonjun shows me constantly. They're beautiful. And I've wasted 2 years of knowing them because of my prejudice. Why should I believe you've changed? Magnolia asked. Why should I let you near my children? Our children. Wonjun corrected gently. Because I was wrong. Mrs. Huang set down her cup. I judged you without knowing you. I assumed things about your character based on where you came from, and I was wrong. Watching Wonjun these past months, seeing him happier than he's been in years, made me realize that everything I thought mattered, money, status, maintaining image, none of it matters if you're alone. That sounds rehearsed, Magnolia said bluntly. Mrs. Huang actually smiled slightly. It was. I've been practicing for days. She leaned forward. But I mean it. I'm not asking to be grandmother of the year. I'm asking for a chance to know my grandsons, to make amends for the damage I caused. And if I say no, Magnolia challenged, then I'll accept it. Mrs. Huang glanced at June. My son has made his priorities clear. If I want him in my life, I need to accept the people he loves. All of them. It wasn't a perfect apology. It still held that stiff formality, that discomfort with admitting fault. But something in Mrs. Huang's eyes looked genuine, a grandmother's regret at missing out on children she'd never met. One meeting, Magnolia said finally, supervised. At the park where we usually go. If the boys like you, we'll talk about more. If they don't, or if you say anything that upsets them, we're done. That's fair. Mrs. Huang nodded. Thank you. The rest of the tea was less tense, though not comfortable. Mrs. Huang asked about the boys, their personalities, their likes and dislikes. Magnolia answered carefully, watching for any sign of the woman who'd called her trash. But that version of Mrs. Huang seemed buried under layers of genuine regret. Can I ask you something? Mrs. Huang said as they were leaving. Why did you keep the babies? You could have handled things differently, made your life easier. They're not the babies. They're Olive, Charlie, and Sam. Magnolia felt anger spark. And I kept them because they're mine. Because I loved them from the moment I knew they existed. Because giving up wasn't an option. I didn't mean. I know what you meant. Magnolia grabbed her purse. And that's exactly why you need to be careful around them. They're not problems to be handled or difficulties to overcome. They're children. Amazing, perfect children who deserve grandparents that see them as blessings. Mrs. Huang looked chastened. You're right.
I'm sorry.
That came out wrong. In the car afterward, June reached over and Charlied Magnolia's hand. You were incredible in there. I was mad. You were strong. He smiled at her. And you're right. They are amazing. I tell her that constantly, but hearing you defend them, I fell in love with you all over again. Stop saying you love me, but she didn't pull her hand away. Why? It's true. Because it's confusing. She stared out the window. Because I'm trying to protect myself and you keep making it harder.
Good.
He brought her hand to his lips, just barely brushing his mouth against her knuckles. I want it to be harder. I want you to see that I'm here, that I'm real, that this isn't going away. June. You don't have to say it back. You don't have to feel the same way. He lowered their joined hands. But I need you to know. Every day, I need you to know how much you mean to me. How much all of you mean to me. Magnolia's phone buzzed before she could respond. Evangeline. Emergency.
Come home now.
Her heart stopped. Something's wrong with the boys. Drive faster. June didn't hesitate, cutting through traffic in a way that probably wasn't legal, but Magnolia didn't care. They reached her apartment in record time, both of them running up the stairs. Evangeline met them at the door, looking frantic. It's Sam. He's burning up. Fever spiked suddenly. I called a pediatrician, but they said to take him to the emergency room if it goes above 103. It's at 104. Magnolia pushed past her. Sam lay on the couch, flushed and crying weakly. She scooped him up, feeling the heat radiating from his small body. I'll drive, June said immediately. Evangeline, can you stay with Olive and Charlie? Of course.
Go.
Hurry. The ride to the hospital was a blur. Magnolia sat in back, holding Sam, whispering reassurances while terror clawed at her throat. June drove with controlled urgency, one hand reaching back periodically to touch her knee, grounding her. He's going to be okay, he kept saying. He's going to be fine. At the emergency room, everything happened fast. Nurses took Sam back immediately while a doctor peppered Magnolia with questions she could barely answer through her panic. June stayed beside her, his hand on her back, his presence the only thing keeping her from falling apart completely. We're giving him fever reducers, a doctor explained. Running tests to determine the cause. Most likely a virus, but we want to be thorough. The waiting was torture. Magnolia paced the small room where they'd been told to wait, unable to sit still. Wonjun watched her with worried eyes. This is my fault, she said suddenly. I should have noticed earlier. Should have checked his temperature. Should have. Stop. Wonjun stood, catching her mid-pace. This isn't your fault. Kids spike fevers. It happens. But I'm his mother. I should have. You're an incredible mother. He gently guided her to a chair. The best mother. And Sam is going to be fine, because you got him here in time. She collapsed into the chair, and suddenly she was crying. All the stress of the day, of the past months, of 2 years of doing everything alone, came pouring out. I can't lose him, she sobbed. I can't lose any of them. They're everything. They're all I have. You're not going to lose him. Wonjun knelt in front of her. And you're not alone anymore. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. She grabbed onto him, needing something solid, something real. He held her while she cried, one hand stroking her braids, murmuring reassurances that might have been Korean or English. She couldn't tell and didn't care. The doctor returned 20 minutes later. Good news. The fever's responding to medication. Looks like a particularly aggressive virus, but nothing serious. We'd like to keep him for observation tonight, but he should be fine to go home tomorrow. Relief hit like a physical force. Magnolia sagged against Wonjun, who steadied her. Can we see him? Wonjun asked. Of course. Right this way. Sam looked tiny in the hospital bed, connected to N4, but his color was better. He managed a weak smile when he saw them.
Mama.
Daddy. Magnolia's breath caught. It was the first time he'd called Wonjun that. She looked at Wonjun, saw tears streaming down his face. Hey, buddy. Wonjun's voice broke. How are you feeling?
Sleepy.
Sam's eyes drooped. You stay? We both will, Magnolia promised, moving to his bedside. Right here all night. And they did. Magnolia on one side of the bed, Wonjun on the other, both refusing to leave even when the nurses offered to bring cots. They held Sam's small hands while he slept, watched his breathing, memorized the steady beep of monitors that said he was okay. Around 2 a.m., when the hospital was quiet and Sam was sleeping peacefully, Wonjun spoke. I missed so much, he said quietly. And tonight, watching you fall apart because you love them so much, seeing how terrified you were, I realized I could have missed this too. I could have missed being here for this, for all of it. You're here now. Magnolia looked at him across their sleeping son. That's what matters. Is it enough? Me being here now. She thought about it, really thought about it. Thought about the past 2 months, about him showing up consistently, about him defending them against Mi-sun, about him driving through traffic because their son needed help. Maybe, she said honestly. Maybe it's starting to be enough. Hope flickered in his eyes. Just starting. Rome wasn't built in a day, Wonjun. But she smiled slightly. You hurt me badly. Trust takes time to rebuild. I have time. He reached across the bed, and this time when he took her hand, she Charlied back. All the time in the world. They sat like that through the night, connected by their son and something fragile, but growing between them. 3 months after the hospital stay, Magnolia's apartment had transformed. Not physically. She'd refused to let Wonjun pay for renovations, but in feeling. He'd become part of their daily routine. He showed up for breakfast sometimes, messy hair, and bringing fresh bread from the bakery the boys loved. He stayed for dinner most nights, helping with homework and bath time, and the chaos that came with 3 toddlers. And somewhere along the way, without planning to, Magnolia had fallen in love with him again. Or maybe she'd never stopped. Maybe she'd just buried it deep enough to survive. Mama's staring at Daddy again, Olive announced one evening, too observant for his age. Magnolia felt her face heat. I'm not staring. You are, Charlie agreed, not looking up from his coloring. You do it lots. Out of the mouths of children, Wonjun said with a grin. He was washing dishes, another normal thing that would have seemed impossible a year ago. I stare at Mama too, so it's fair. Why you stare? Sam asked, climbing onto the counter despite Magnolia's protests. Because your mama is beautiful. June lifted him down gently. And no climbing. We talked about this. But I can see better up high. You can also fall and give Mama a heart attack. June tickled him. Down on the floor, mister. Watching them together made Magnolia's heart feel too big for her chest. This was everything she'd dreamed about when she first found out she was pregnant. A father who showed up. A partner who helped. A family that felt complete. Later, after the boys were asleep and June was gathering his things to leave, he always left, never assumed he could stay. Magnolia caught his hand. Wait, she said. He turned, hope and caution warring on his face. Yeah, I forgive you. The words came out quiet but firm. For everything that happened before. I forgive you. His eyes went wide. Magnolia. Let me finish. She took a breath. I forgive you, but more than that, I trust you. These past months, you've shown me who you really are. Not the scared man who ran away, but the father who shows up every day. The partner who helps without being asked. The person who chooses us, over and over. I'll keep choosing you. His voice was rough with emotion. Every day. Forever. I know. She moved closer. And I'm ready to choose you back. If you still want me. If you still want all of us. If I still want. He laughed, the sound breaking. Magnolia, I've never stopped wanting you. I've never stopped loving you. Every moment of every day, you're all I think about. Then maybe you should stay tonight. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Not in a weird way. Just stay. Have breakfast with us. Be here when they wake up. Understanding dawned in his eyes. This was more than an invitation. This was her letting him into their life completely. No more holding back. No more walls. I'd love that, he said softly. More than anything. He slept on the couch, both of them knowing it was too soon for anything else. But that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was waking up to find him making pancakes while 3 boys climbed on him like he was a jungle gym. What mattered was the normalcy of it. The rightness. Daddy makes good pancakes, Olive declared, chocolate chips smeared across his face. Better than Mama's? Magnolia pretended to be offended. Different good, Charlie said diplomatically. Smart kid. June winked at her. Knows how to keep everyone happy. Mrs. Huang started visiting too, tentative at first, but warming up when the boys accepted her easily. She brought gifts, thoughtful ones now, not expensive displays, and asked permission before planning outings. The change wasn't perfect, but it was real. I was wrong about you, Mrs. Huang said to Magnolia one afternoon while watching the boys play. You're stronger than I gave you credit for. Better for my son than anyone I would have chosen. I don't need your approval, Magnolia said honestly. But I appreciate the apology. You don't need my approval, but you have it anyway. Mrs. Huang smiled slightly. And my gratitude. You gave me a second chance with my son. And 3 grandsons I adore. That's more grace than I deserved. Life fell into a rhythm. June started staying over more often, a drawer appearing for his clothes, a toothbrush in the bathroom. They didn't rush anything, but they didn't hold back either. This was their second chance, and both of them were determined not to waste it. 6 months after that first encounter at the cafe, June took Magnolia to dinner, their first real date since getting back together. Evangeline watched the boys, shooing them out with a grin and instructions not to come back too early. I'm nervous, Magnolia admitted in the car. Me too. June's hand found hers. Feels like our first date all over again. Except now we have 3 kids and a complicated history. Makes it more interesting. He pulled up to a restaurant she'd never been to, nice but not pretentious. I wanted to show you something after dinner. If that's okay. Curiosity sparked. What kind of something? A surprise. A good one, I promise. Dinner was perfect. Easy conversation. Laughter, the kind of comfort that came from really knowing someone. And when June drove them to a quiet neighborhood after, Magnolia grew more curious. Where are we? You'll see. He parked in front of a house, decent-sized, with a yard and good bones. Come on. He led her to the front door, pulled out a key. Inside, The house was empty, but clean, moonlight streaming through windows. I bought it, he said quietly. Or, I'm in the process of buying it. There's a bedroom for each of the boys. A big kitchen. A yard where they can play. I thought if you wanted, we could make this ours. Magnolia walked through the space, seeing possibilities. A home. A real home where the boys could grow up, where they wouldn't be cramped in a tiny apartment. This is too much, she said, but without heat. It's what you deserve. What all of you deserve. He stayed near the door, giving her space. I'm not trying to buy your love or fix things with money. I just want to give you the life you should have had from the beginning. What if I'm not ready to move in together? Then we'll wait. He smiled. The house isn't going anywhere. We can take our time. But I wanted you to know it's here. When you're ready. If you're ever ready. She turned to face him, this man who'd hurt her and healed her, who'd left and come back, who was trying so hard to be everything she needed. I love you, she said. The words felt huge in the empty house. I tried not to. Tried to protect myself. But I love you, June. I think I always have. He crossed the space between them in 3 strides. Say it again. I love you. She laughed. Even though you broke my heart. Even though you made me so angry. I love you. He pulled her close, not sudden or demanding, just gathering her in like she was precious. They stood like that in the empty living room, holding each other, while moonlight painted patterns on the floor. I love you too, he murmured against her hair. More than I thought it was possible to love anything. You, and those 3 perfect boys, you're my whole world. We come as a package deal, she teased. Good. He pulled back to look at her. I wouldn't want it any other way. They stood there planning futures and dreaming out loud about what the house could become. About birthday parties in the yard and holidays around a real dining table. About growing old together while their sons grew up. Marry me, June said suddenly. Magnolia's breath caught. What? I know it's fast. I know we're still rebuilding. But I don't want to wait anymore. He didn't have a ring, didn't drop to one knee, just held her hands and spoke from his heart. I want forever with you. I want to be your husband and their father legally and every other way. I want everyone to know you're mine and I'm yours. You're crazy, she whispered. Crazy about you. He smiled. So, what do you say? Will you marry me? Take your time. Think about it. No pressure. But know that I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything. Magnolia thought about the past 2 years. The pain, the struggle, the loneliness of doing everything alone. Then she thought about the past 8 months. His consistency, his love, his dedication to their boys, and to earning her trust back. Yes, she said, surprising herself. Yes, I'll marry you. His smile could have lit the whole city. He spun her around in the empty house, both of them laughing like kids. We should tell the boys, she said when he set her down. Tomorrow. He kept his arms around her. Tonight, let's just be us. Just Magnolia and June, figuring out forever. They sat on the floor of their future living room, backs against the wall, talking until sunrise. About wedding plans and combining families. About fears and hopes and everything in between. And when light started filtering through the windows, they drove back to Magnolia's apartment to wake up 3 boys with news about their new house and their parents getting married. The squeals of joy could probably be heard 3 floors down. Mrs. Huang cried when they told her, actual tears of happiness. She hugged Magnolia, really hugged her, and whispered another apology that felt genuine. Evangeline planned the wedding with efficient joy, bulldozing through details while Magnolia floated through preparations in a happy daze. It would be small, just family and close friends. The boys would be ring bearers, probably causing chaos, and Magnolia wouldn't have it any other way. The wedding day came with perfect weather. Magnolia wore a simple white dress, not traditional, not extravagant, just beautiful. Olive, Charlie, and Sam wore matching suits and looked so handsome she cried doing their hair. Mama pretty, Sam said, touching her dress carefully. You cry happy? Charlie asked, tilting his head. Very happy. She kissed each of their foreheads. The happiest. Daddy's gonna cry too, Olive predicted. He cries lots now. He was right. When Magnolia walked down the makeshift aisle in Mrs. Huang's garden, Wonjun openly wept. His mother had to hand him tissues while their guests chuckled warmly. You look. He trailed off when she reached him. There aren't words. Try, she whispered. Perfect. You look perfect. And I'm the luckiest man alive. The ceremony was short and sweet. They'd written their own vows, keeping them simple. I promise to choose you every day, Wonjun said, voice thick with emotion. To choose our family, our love, over everything else. I promise to be the partner you deserve, the father our sons need. I promise to never walk away again. I promise to trust you, Magnolia said through tears. To believe in us even when it's hard. I promise to build a life with you, raise our boys together, and love you through everything. I promise to remember that people can change, can grow, can become better than they were. When they were pronounced married, the boys cheered louder than anyone. Wonjun lifted Magnolia slightly, both of them laughing and crying and completely wrapped up in a moment. The reception was chaos and joy. The boys ran wild with other children while adults danced and celebrated. At one point, Magnolia found herself standing with Mrs. Huang, watching Wonjun play with their sons. Thank you, Mrs. Huang said quietly, for giving him a second chance. For giving me a second chance. We all deserve second chances, Magnolia said, if we're willing to actually change. You've made him better. Made all of us better. Mrs. Huang Charlied her hand. Welcome to the family. Really welcome this time. As the sun set, Wonjun pulled Magnolia onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. The song was one they'd loved during their first relationship, bringing everything full circle. We made it, he murmured as they swayed. Through everything, we made it. We did. She rested her head on his shoulder. And we're going to make it through everything else too. The boys are going to drive us crazy, he warned with a smile. Absolutely. She laughed. And it's going to be perfect. They danced under string lights while their sons watched with wide eyes, and Magnolia thought about how far they'd come. From that first meeting at an art gallery to harsh words and separation to finding their way back through love and persistence and 3 beautiful boys who'd changed everything. It hadn't been easy. The road back to each other had been filled with pain and doubt and fear. But they'd walked it together, step by step, until they found their way home. And home, she realized, wasn't a place. It was this, Wonjun's arms around her, their sons laughing nearby, a future stretching out bright and full of promise. Home was choosing love even when it was hard, believing in second chances, and knowing that sometimes the best endings come after the worst beginnings. What are you thinking? Wonjun asked. That I'm glad you were too stubborn to give up on us. I'm glad you were brave enough to give me another chance. He spun her gently. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. I know you will. She pulled back to look at him. Because that's who you are now. That's who you chose to become. As they danced, surrounded by family and love and the sound of their children's laughter, both of them knew this was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, there always were. But they'd face them together, as partners, as parents, as 2 people who'd fought their way back to love and won. The story that started with harsh words and heartbreak ended with vows and forever. And sometimes that's exactly how the best stories go. It makes you think about second chances, doesn't it? If you enjoyed watching Magnolia and Wonjun find their way back to each other, drop a like and let me know in the comments which moment hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching, and I hope I see you in the next one.